really, I don't know if excited's the right word about this panel, but I am looking forward to what these brilliant folks have to say. Looking forward to your questions. We're going to have plenty of time to talk to each other, to interact, because this might be the most important thing there is, right? Is this industry that we all participate in, music, entertainment. If it's not working for all people, what are we doing? What's the point, right? And I think we can probably agree, I mean, raise your hand if you think it's not working for all people. And keep it up if it's not working for you. Half up, half, okay. So I want to introduce some of these beautiful folks. First of all, we did have a panelist who is not feeling well, but will be a part of our delegation for the next 5 days, who is Rue Johnson. So when you see Rue, give them a big hug and welcome them into the circle when they're able to make it. So first up, we have Corey Hazel. I could just riff on your bios, but I'm going to read them because people need to know how amazing you are. And these were, just so you know, these were all cut down to like 2 pages. So all their bios are published, and these folks are like, hello, amazing. Corey's based out of Denver and is an entertainment professional who works to elevate brands, bands, venues, and everything in between. Many people in the city recognize Corey from half a decade that he spent as a talent buyer, photographer, and editor of 303 magazine, where his work really helped to instill a deep love and commitment to Denver's music scene. He is currently also managing UMS main stage artist Neptune. I mean, look at this guy. He's on the stage. We're going to talk to him. He's amazing. Okay, next we have Stephanie Tavares-Rance. Stephanie is, 20 years ago, Stephanie started the Martha's Vineyard African American Film Festival, which is taking place the second and third week, or the first and second week of August this year. Stephanie has worked in music and entertainment since she was 18 years old.
Something like that, yeah.
And is really working in, had previously been working in film, and still does that, but recently joined Youth on Record 4 months ago as our deputy director. And so Stephanie is just really committed to advancing career pathways and opportunity for, in particular, young BIPOC women. So, yeah, welcome, Stephanie. Stephanie's going to be your key to unlocking film, so totally feel free to bombard her after this session. She's not afraid. She's not afraid. Okay, finally, last, of course not least, we have Bruce Trujillo. Bruce currently works as the concert director at Swallow Hill Music, hosts weekends on Colorado's Public Radio's new music service, Indie 1023. It's not that new, but we'll say it soon. Is the creator and host of Especial, a week-long hour deep dive into Latin-made music. Bruce is also executive director and host for Colorful Colorado Collaborations, bringing together, Bruce is amazing, BIPOC entrepreneurs and local businesses for unique concert experiences. Bruce serves on the board of directors for Biennial of the Americas, is a professional member of the Recording Academy, and most recently was named one of the top 25 most powerful women in Colorado. Let's give her glory. These folks are amazing, and I'm so excited to have this conversation. Okay. We're going to start with the good. We're going to go good, bad, ugly, good. I like to call that a shit sandwich, so we're going to start here. We're going to start with the good. What's changing for the better in music and entertainment? What are you seeing? What's your role in some of those changes? And let's start with you, Bruce. You can take your mic out of your cup holder.
Also, I have my phone out because I am on production today for a major show at Denver Botanic Garden, so I am paying attention, but also paying attention here. So I think a good thing that is happening is that people know that this industry is difficult, and knowing is half the battle. So yeah, it's, we know that there's inequities happening. We know that there is discrepancies. We know that there's pay gaps. We know that there's booking gaps and airplay gap. All of that, like people know, and so it's not a surprise anymore. And if anybody acts surprised, it's like you can call them out on that shit. It's not true. We all know what's going on here. So now we can work on it. So now, even if some of these hiring practices are basic and performative, more people are being hired that are in our communities. There's more people that are getting into roles that matter. And so they're the ones that are going to be making the changes. They're the ones that can see and feel and point out these discrepancies. And so that's the first point of fixing these things. So that, to me, is exciting. We still have a long way to go, but it's at least you got to start somewhere, and that start is like here in this room. There's a lot of people that are doing the work and continuing to make it happen.
Bruce, are you, well, real quick, are you guys seeing that hiring looks different? That kind of makeup looks different of who's working where? Okay, that's good. I mean, we're going to try to stay positive where it is deserved to be positive. Bruce, when did you start seeing that change? When did you start seeing the sort of recognition that, like, this is a problem, and if you're not on board, you're in complete denial, or you're okay with the problem?
That's a good way to put it. I mean, I think it's in different stages for different communities. I think specifically, like, women have been able to say, like, we aren't getting a piece of this pie. LGBTQ plus have been able to say, we're not getting a piece of this pie. And then it goes on and on and on. I think a specific point for a lot of nonprofit, I work in the nonprofit sector primarily. The year of reckoning, of course, is 2020 after the murder of George Floyd. And people really decided to take a look internally at what was wrong. Like, maybe we are all white, and maybe we are upholding white supremacist standards, even though we don't think we are. We think we're, like, people could be good people and still uphold that, right? And then that makes you look at other things, like, oh, maybe we aren't playing women as much. Maybe we aren't booking as many Black and brown artists as we should be. Maybe we're not paying people what we should be. There's like this idea that nobody wants to work. Well, nobody wants to work when they can't make a living off of what that is, and that's all a part of this conversation as well. Moving into a booking role, seeing in black and white the discrepancy of a femme artist getting paid significantly less than a white counterpart when they have probably a larger fan base and more numbers behind their streaming. I knew it was happening, but knowing that it happened at a place that I work before I got there, it made me sick. Like, a show that I had to produce that was booked before I got there. That is real. It's a tangible thing that happens, and people know about it and still let it slide. So I think people are still coming to terms with that and still coming to terms that they can do better. And being told that we can do better is not a bad thing. And we can always all do better in many ways, and this is just one of those things. So I would say, 2020 and even moving into today.
Yep. Stephanie, what are you seeing, improvements that you've seen in the course of your career? What's getting better?
I think representation is getting better. And you guys are here. It's interesting. My lens is a little different. I'm just a little bit raw. And being in the music industry in the '90s, I was in A&R at EMI Records. It was always pretty diverse. I will say that the people in power, they were white men, but we did see this sort of shift of women and more people of color coming in. This is all before social media, and I think social media really helped, spark that and open that door for people to see that, well, damn, why aren't there more LGBTQ plus representation? Why aren't there more Hispanic, Asian, Black representation in the music industry specifically? I will say that what I find interesting is, because I'm from New York City, and I've heard of so many murders of police, of Black people. And it always interests me that why was it George Floyd? And maybe that was his calling. Maybe the universe was like, you're going to be the person to make change. So I just always wonder, why was it him? And why did he have to give his life for people to finally open up their eyes and really listen to the fact that police brutality is a real thing, right? NWA talked about it forever. They said, fuck the police, and that's a song. Ice Cube would say it, and no one paid attention to this. And I think one of the positives, that if there is a positive in the murder of someone, is that these companies realized that they had to change, right? Because I think young people were like, we're tired of this. This has got to stop. We all have to get along. We have to save this planet. We all have to work together. So in regard to the question of what I'm seeing, I am seeing a shift. I love the fact that young creatives like all of you in the room are taking matters into your own hands. You're making your own music. You're not really pressed to get signed to a major label. Like, you know, when I was doing it, it was like, oh my God, I've got to be at EMI Records. I've got to be at Warner Brothers. I've got to be at Virgin. Then you guys are doing it yourself. I think that's absolutely fantastic. You're owning your own masters. You're in control of how your music is selling, and you're getting all the money. There's no middle person. I think it's fantastic. I love the fact that social media has given all of you an outlet to let the world know who you are. You know, I think it's an amazing thing that someone like Baba Fly could have his own, you know, Instagram account and millions of people can see and hear what he's doing. I think that's great, because when I was doing this back in the late 90s, that wasn't the case. It was like, you had to go to a music label, you had to go in there and audition. And I'll be honest, in New York, it wasn't really a race thing in New York City, because everybody's in New York, right? Nobody cares. It's more in these like little things, these little states in the middle that nobody cares about, that they care about.
Spoken like a true fucking New Yorker. We care about us.
Sorry, you know, New York, it's like, it's New York, it's LA, and it's all that shit. But what's interesting, it wasn't really race, it was more so like, I remember when all of these artists from the South would come to EMI Records, and they would try to get me, and everybody would just be like, get out of here with that accent, you're a hick, whatever. And I love the fact that these artists, specifically in Georgia and Atlanta, took matters into their own hand and created this whole ecosystem of music, to the point where Atlanta is bigger than New York and LA for music and for film.
That's right.
And I want that same model to happen for Colorado as well.
Yeah.
Don't think your life begins and ends with New York and LA. Do your own thing here and make people pay attention to this state.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, how does equity extend to geography, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's really important. Corey, why don't you wrap up with what's good? What's happening?
I think with the great pause and all, like, a lot of people were able to, like, stop what they were doing, and, like, at the same time, a lot of people left their own industries. So it created, like, a ability to have opportunity and be able to do something different the second time around. It's like, yeah, they recognize it, probably way too late, but at the same time, like, a lot of companies were faced with the prospect of, like, let's do it different this time, and let's try to at least make an effort, which I don't always know was the case before everything had to be put on hold. In other aspects, I think there's a lot more. A lot of people started like second side gigs and everything during like the height of the pandemic. And I think what that also did was it allowed people to like believe in themselves, and believe in like what they uniquely offered to the world, that they could honestly hustle themselves and like actually put their foot forward in the way and on their own terms.
Yeah.
And I think there's kind of like an enlightening in the sense of just like that, like you have that internal power, you got to find it, you can get through 2020. And like a lot of people were able to like put that toward whether their artistic pursuit was, and seeing that and evolve, and like people bringing in like-minded people and like building these kind of like clusters of people that also believe what they believe to kind of advance their purpose is something that I think really advances everyone that has been left out of the music industry thus far.
Yeah.
It's like if we couldn't do it alone, we're going to do it together.
Yeah.
And it's like that collective mindset of like we're going to make it like kind of fuck what they say, fuck what they thought of us. Like we're going to do it.
Yeah. I love that. So there's still things we obviously are having to work on. So I would love to hear just one thing from each of you, that if you could just wave a magic wand or clear your schedule for the next 10 years and just say, I'm working on this one shift. Huh?
Can you do that for me?
I would love to do that for you and myself. But, so yeah, maybe there is equity in how much of the emotional and actual labor that women are carrying in the industry, not getting paid for it. But yeah, what would you guys pick as the thing you're like, I have to go full in on this pursuit, like this has to change? We're gonna, Bruce kicked it over to Corey. She said to top 25 most powerful women, so I do what Bruce tells me. Corey, you're up.
It's a lofty question.
Yep.
Like, what would, if I could just work on one
Just
thing?
pick one, it's just for time's sake.
One thing like I would focus on right now.
Yeah, like what's the one change that you're like, we have to change this? Or this, you know, this is the highest priority industry shift.
I think
And if that question's too hard, you can answer whatever question you want.
I think empowering younger people to kind of act more as a guide and not as a reaction would
Okay.
be like incredible in terms of like how music is seen and interpreted by like the people who are actually seeing and interpreting it.
Okay, tell me more what you mean about that. Asking young creatives to act as our guides.
Like
'Cause I
the
love
biggest
this.
like consumer of like music are always like younger people, the ones that are in high school, like early 20s, early 30s, like where they're like actively pursuing new music and like wanting to engage with their favorite artists in a more palpable way than like older demographics who have already had those moments of like, oh my gosh, this is the most amazing band I've ever seen.
Right.
And they've gotten years to connect with them and be able to have that moment. I think like a lot of ways, like some ideas get like put off and like kind of buried because like this idea that you have to have a certain amount of clout or you have to have a certain amount of time on your resume to like actually put together. And I think that's like really inhibiting like how much like the music industry could grow and in different ways it can grow.
Uh-huh.
So like just kind of enabling that is something I would work on.
Yeah. And is that best done sort of in person, building that community in person? Is that best done online, on social medias? Like what's the platform for having, you know, young folks?
I always
Take
think
the
real life is just the better way because I mean we're all still here. We're all being able to connect in a really palpable way. So I mean the same goes for when you have these ideas in the same way about like actually like putting them into action.
Yeah.
And actually being able to feel what where the trends are heading, where things are heading, where music is the future is. Like if the future is there, like please believe more in the people that like know, like see it fully or experiencing it in real time.
Yeah, trusting young people.
Yeah.
Yep, and their judgment and what, you know, and following their lead. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
with that 100%.
Because you can even
Connecting
see
with
like
youth culture.
when they don't
Yep,
believe like artists like doing something completely new.
yep.
And they're like, oh, I don't get this. I don't see what they're seeing. And like, but like you can see a bunch of younger people being like, I really like vibe with this.
Yep.
And it's something about like, that's like they're on something. They're on a stream.
Yep. Totally, I love that. Yeah. Stephanie, if you could wave your wand, so we've got, you know, youth culture here. Love that we led with that. What has to change?
I think what has to change is what I touched upon before. I want the entertainment industry just to, you know, widen their lens and think about other states that have amazing artists in them. I really think that's really important. And one of the things that I'd love to do when I moved to Denver, I never thought I'd move to Denver. I'm a New Yorker.
I mean, she loves it now. She's acting
But
like
I love it. I think it's a
about
great
it,
place. I really do. And there's so many talented people here. And I really, my mission, and one of the reasons I took the job at Youth on Record, is that I wanted to open up all the connections that I have in entertainment, music, and film to think about Denver, Colorado. Because every time I bring it up, they're like, really, Denver? It's not just cowboys and snow? I'm like, no, it's not. There's some really amazing people here. There's some great talent in this state. And so when I bought some big films here, you know, we bought Respect here, we did Antebellum, and some of the other films, the studios are like, oh my God, we love Denver. We're gonna keep Denver in mind when we want to do like our tours for these big films that are coming out. There's some great people here, some great influencers. So my mission for Youth on Record, for all of the teaching artists and everyone that's there, I want to give them opportunities. I want everyone to have the opportunities that were given to me. I have to pass it on to them as well, so they can have the opportunity to be the best version of themselves that they can be.
And what I hear in that, and I know we've all experienced this in some ways, is also some gatekeeping, right? Like sharing context generously,
Absolutely.
right? Not holding up a standard of gatekeeping as you've made it, so you lock the door behind you, right? And calling out when it's happening, because if
I
we're
never understood that. It's like, they're public companies, so I can find Jamie Duffy at Elektra Records. Like, what? Why can't you share her email address, like, or her number?
Right.
Like, it's a public company. Like, why are you hoarding this connection?
Yeah.
Because giving doesn't take away from you. Actually, it fills your cup up even more.
Yeah. So even working internally and emotionally on our own kind of scarcity mindsets, right? Like if I get it, or if they have it, then I don't have it. You know,
Right.
just
And
knowing
it takes
that.
away from me. No, it
Exactly,
doesn't.
exactly. And we start to see that with more representation, right? We've seen that with more representation on stage. When you're the only, you do have to hold it really close, and that's what we've heard from people in the past. And the more representation there is on stage, the more you can share that. Bruce, what are you going to do with your magic wand?
I do like, before I get to that, I do like that gatekeeping point
Yeah.
because like we're a community and we need to act like we're in community and take care of each other and like say names in rooms and give numbers and emails in different rooms and spaces because y'all should be booked. It shouldn't be like, I'm just going to book them in my place or play them on my radio. Like, and I think to go back to the emotional labor point, like women and femmes, of course, hold a lot of emotional labor, and BIPOC folks, and too, because it's like all of these different communities have to continue to struggle to say like this is why I'm important, and if that conversation did not have to continue, if that can happen, then y'all could just concentrate on making your art, and we can concentrate on booking you, and we can just move forward, and it would be really nice to just be able to do that as opposed to like, this is why this person deserves this much money, this is why this person deserves to be booked and not have it be a struggle day in and day out. I think, you know, working in radio and in booking, it's like, right now I feel like I'm fighting two fights because, well, not so much in booking because I get to book and I get to decide what those numbers are and who comes in, but like, you know, it's been a slog to be like, this is why we need to have these people in here. Like they're making music that makes everything. It is gatekeeping, and it is like, I want the gate open. I don't need to be like, no, you can't come in. You know, and that's not the case in most of the industry. So I would love for that conversation to just be done and for people to fucking get it.
I agree. I mean, just one point on that, you know, I've never totally considered myself like in the music industry, but more kind of on the periphery of the ecosystem. When I moved into negotiations to purchase UMS, right? I tried to find how much music festivals were worth, because you can do that in other industries. It's like, what's the valuation? Nothing. There's no information in music about how much companies are worth, about how much people get paid. It is insane to me, and I'm from nonprofits, so all of our shit's public, right? Like, I mean, it is, you can look up right now and see how much we all make, right? As it probably should be. I have never seen anything like I've seen in the music industry about money and how little we talk about it.
And there's so much of it going around.
Yes, and
so
Bruce,
much
doesn't
money.
that mean that like, if we're not talking about it, it's because certain people are hoarding it, right? And they're not wanting to see how much this person makes, how little this person makes. So I want to see that blown open. I don't know, do you guys have any thoughts about that? I mean, you're in that.
Yeah, it's interesting working, so I get to do very small shows, very intimate shows where like we don't even have a guarantee. It's like, you get 65% of sales and I'll buy you dinner, and that's cool, but then like,
booze.
yeah. But then there's other ones where you have contracts up to $80,000 for a single performance, and it's like, why? Like maybe because you are more well known, but like, is the show that much more quality? Really? Like, you know, like, I don't know. So the discrepancy between that and how much people get paid at book agencies versus like how much I get paid versus how much my staff gets paid. Like, there's all of this. It's such a wide gap. And then again, going into those things like, cis-het white male makes much more than XYZ. You know, like you go down the list, and no, you don't get to see how much those people make, but you know that they are making plenty because there is that much money floating around out of my account, out of my venue. Like, yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
You know, I just think that from an artist standpoint, for performers, you know, not every artist starts off making $1 million plus a show. I mean, there is this, you have to kind of climb, right? So to your point of, you know, like Kendrick Lamar now is like $1 million a show, and good for him.
Yeah,
He
fuck
deserves
yeah.
it. But he didn't start out that way.
No.
And I think it takes hard work, so I don't think we can just be so like, well, why is she making 80,000 and I'm just making, I mean, I just, unfortunately, or fortunately, it's about who's gonna come inside the door, right? So if I'm on the bill, Stephanie Rand, like no one knows who the hell I am. I'm not a rapper or a singer or a poet. No one's gonna come see me. But if I'm on a bill with Jay-Z, then yeah, Jay-Z's gonna make more money for me because he's the draw.
Yeah.
Right? But I do like the fact that some of these artists will share some of their earnings with newer artists that are coming up. And I think that's what has to happen as well.
Well, and I thought it was great that we had Corinne Bailey Ray the other week at Denver Botanic Gardens. And of course, she got her guarantee. And she was great. That show was amazing. And her opener, Malia, is up and coming. And she was told her guarantee was a tenth of what her guarantee actually was. And like, I got to hand her this beautiful check and she just started crying. And I was like, yes, take your money. Like, she tried to hand it back. And I was like, no, like, here's the contract. You get this amount of money. And she had never made that much. And it was just like, I'm glad that I got to be a part of that and that I kept that in the contract because that's important. And now she can move forward and say, no, I am worth this much money, so yeah, I need it. And like, that progresses things along for folks.
Yeah.
For sure.
And reinforcing value on your own terms, like, is so necessary in terms of like being able to make more. It's like you have to value your art at a certain level, and like also like when you start making one thing, you don't want to dip too far below it. It's like how much value do you bring to these lineups? How much value do you bring? Like, there's a lot that goes into it, but like you can build up that ladder, how much you make by making it, insisting upon it, making it, insisting upon it. That's how you go up the ladder, like your own work being valued even more.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I mean, I think one of the things that we're all going to need as professionals, right? And I know this from my own industry, is we need support with financial literacy. We have to understand how to budget. We have to understand how much things actually cost. We have to know how to not undercut ourselves. And also, I've seen the opposite side where it's like, I'm going to go get that money, and then people are working with us and trying to hustle us. And it's like, well, then you're not going to get the gig either, right? So we need more of that. Professionals need that. That's part of every industry. Or it should be. And so that's part of our work that we're trying to do here at Impact Days 2. We're doing a whole session about how to get money, how to sort of manage that this afternoon. But part of the work too for equity is to keep things like this, I think, free and open and accessible to all of our artists, right? Just knowing that we're building a professional community. Absolutely. And that's what Impact Days is about too, guys, is this tech does this. They started like this. They started in small rooms like this, developing together their skills. And then look what's happened, right? So this is a chance for us to do that locally. I want to shift gears into mental health, because mental health, I think we can all agree, is an equity issue. And so I want to talk to you all about the intersections of music, mental health, and historically marginalized communities. Most of us are musicians here, so I think, or in the music community, so I think we know how artists are doing, but I'm curious, what do artists need right now to survive, to sustain, to thrive in this era that we're in, after George Floyd, after the Trump regime, and then after, or we're still in the middle of COVID, during the pandemic. Like what, for their health, for their care, for their well-being, what do artists need? And then I'm going to open it up so you guys can share what you need.
One of the biggest things I think artists need is someone to like listen to them on their own journey. Like working with Neptune, it's hard because like we're like still in a pandemic. Yep. There's a lot of trauma with that. There's a lot of things that have happened in our own lives. It's hard to do art with all this on your backside and like all these things happening around you, like Roe v. Wade fall, and all these things in the news, and like that's all traumatic.
Yeah.
Besides emphasizing that like we can only control what's around us, but we can be a positive force for good. Yeah. So like calling that shit out. it's something to worry about, but it's not something, a weight to put on your own chest. Because the weight of the world can like drown you out, and it can be like, it could make you suffer. And there's like already enough suffering like on the day to day. And I like always make sure like, I told him today, like, I want to make sure we're having fun. Like, it's hard, like, routine. It's like hard. Everything has a reason, but like, I don't want ever to be the reason of like making someone go too hard. Like, I can't do this. Like, you're letting me down. So I like make sure like, for artists, I think they need to know like to be reinforced that like they're doing something that matters, and no matter what level they're on, that like the art you're putting into the world matters. And like I tell them where to get that. Like it could be as simple as someone like stopping you after the show, and to make sure you like are present there, and be like, yeah, that was an amazing show, and keep that and hold that until the next show. And like things can be very tough, but like really hold those moments of like getting that reinforcement, getting things as the most precious thing in the world, because the world is really tough right now. And the more you hold those things close, the farther you can go, because you'll have that as like gas in the tank to be able to like push through kind of the bullshit of every day.
Yeah, I think that idea of fun and joy is so important. Jen Gordy texted me last night, and it just meant so much to me. She was like, have a great festival, don't forget to enjoy it. And I just so appreciated that, right? Because we have to remind ourselves, like, my joke at the office, it's not really a joke, I mean, it's sort of sad actually, but I'm like, we're not airlifting troops out of Ukraine. I mean, we're in the arts. And that is supposed to be, there is supposed to be some joy and some fun there. So are we all committed to having some fun this weekend too? Are we committed to having some fun? We have to do that. And the soul craves beauty and the soul craves joy. And so I'm so glad that you brought that up, and purpose and meaning.
I would also say to check in on yourself, like be aware of like how you're feeling, and if you're in a bad place, take the time you need. Like take time. Like it's like giving yourself time, being kind to yourself is one of the most important things you can do for your mental health, especially as an artist.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm going to open the question up, just broaden it a little bit to what do artists need, but there's also a lot of people who are working in and around artists and supporting the entire creative ecosystem. So we're all kind of in this room, so it can also be what do folks within the creative ecosystem need, and what can we be aware of? What do you see?
Oh, go ahead.
I would say rest, but with the asterisk that requires resources and money. So artists and people that are working adjacent to need the resources to be able to take that time off, and to be able to experience that joy and that beauty, and be able to sleep, and be able to enjoy themselves while they're still doing it. So being able to pay rent, being able to get mental health services when needed, physical medical attention when they need it. You know, like we have a homie here in the industry who's been missing a tooth for years, and he can't afford to get it fixed, and he's working his ass off all the time. And his, that money that he's making, it goes towards basic things. So is he taken care of? Probably not, like truly. So I think, rest and the time to be able to do those things, but getting the resources, money, it's always the underlying thing. Like you keep seeing those memes across Instagram, like, is it depression or is it late stage capitalism? Like,
Right. Yes.
we're all like working hard and maybe making a decent living, but like the cost of living here in Denver has shot up so much over the past 10 years that it's unbelievable. Like I thought that I was maybe finally like lower middle class. Like no, I'm actually still like on that line where it's like all of my money is going towards living. Yeah. And so it's and I consider myself very privileged with my salary at this point. But my partner is also a musician, and he's still struggling to be able to make those basic things happen. And he needs time to be able to make his music and his art, but he's got to work all the time. So it's like, I wish you all of the money in the world so that you can take the time to create and, hi baby, and be able to do what you do, because the reason why we're passionate about it is because y'all are making the music and making the art. So I hope you guys can take time to rest and recharge and be inspired.
Yeah, I echo everything you said, and I also think opportunity, right? I think, the reason my husband and I started this film festival on Martha's Vineyard was to give an opportunity for young independent filmmakers of color in a beautiful place. Martha's Vineyard is a happy place for everyone, but specifically for African Americans. Y'all can Google the history. But, it's a place for us just to come and just to be free and just have a great time surrounded by the Atlantic Ocean. What a great place to do that. And our mission is always to create this gateway to people that they probably wouldn't meet in their lifetime. And we're committed to that. It's a hard balance when you have sponsors and it's like all this sponsored content, like the streaming services and the studios. And what you see happening sometimes is that the independent films sort of get pushed out a little bit because you want to show the next Michael B. Jordan film. You want to show Woman King, which we are showing, and Viola Davis is coming. But you want to make sure that, but we want to have that balance of filmmakers as well. We really, really do. And one of the things that we are really proud of is that we do this thing called the Director's Brunch. And we feed them, we give them this beautiful, beautiful brunch, and it's a spread. And there's always a couple of guest speakers there. And this year, Spike Lee's a friend of ours, and he comes. And a couple of the filmmakers, actually, Spike hired them on the spot to work at 40 Acres in a Meet. Like, that's the kind of opportunity I'm talking about, because when are you going to meet Spike Lee, right? He's at Denver. And if he is in Denver, he's going to be surrounded by 8,000 people. But on Martha's Vineyard, it's open, and he's there, and he's at this brunch, and he's in a great mood. He's like, you know what? Jesus, what do you want to do? You're a screenwriter? Okay, great, come on board. I'm going to give you a shot. And that's exactly how it happens. So for us, it's about opportunity and opening doors for filmmakers of color and for women as well.
I love that. So we have, more joy, recognizing the impact that you're having and having folks around you to support you in that. You cannot there's no amount of self-care that's going to support your mental wellness if you're struggling in poverty. And we just gotta keep shouting that from the rooftops. They are intertwined. And then we have just, blowing the doors wide open and giving people the opportunities and giving artists the opportunities and arts professionals the opportunities. Maybe 3 folks from the audience, what are 3 more things we need to be aware of that musicians and artists could use for mental health support? Yes. You want to come up here so we can see your beautiful face and spend the day with you? And this is Yuzo. Woo! Seeing Yuzo is just up to my dopamine. Hi, buddy. What do we need to know?
We need insurance, like
For our gear.
Insurance, property gear, okay? I'm taking requests and I'll take them up the mountain.
Just to piggyback on that, like, a lot of musicians I know, myself included, are on Medicaid.
Yep.
But then you're trying to get mental services, and there's an 8-month waiting list for counseling.
I know. Okay.
So, like, maybe budgeting to hire in-house counselors.
Yep.
Or something to that degree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love
Sorry,
it.
I interrupted.
access to like BIPOC and queer and trans providers.
That's right. Yep. Culturally responsive mental wellness providers is key. Hello. Yuzo, I mean, just help yourself. He's gonna lay on the stage. We love it. He's right here. So we're gonna keep these conversations going. Love all of these suggestions. I do want to shift a little bit to sobriety. That is a major theme for UMS, and it's coming up for mental health for our artists, right? And so part of our work at UMS Impact Days is to really just destigmatize what that looks like. I am curious about, in particular, my question for you is, what have you observed about, I would say alcohol in particular, in the music industry, being paid in tickets, being paid with, beer tickets, how dependent we are on selling alcohol for sellout shows. Is this causing harm? Is this something we need to be worried about? What are some alternatives? What are you all looking for? What have you observed? And how does this play a role in the mental health of artists and industry professionals?
Working at a venue, we do rely on our bar, not super heavy, because like we have a full bar. All right.
This is a dance portion of the night.
Yeah, I mean, we mostly sell like wine and beer. We do give drink tickets to all of our artists, but with the caveat, like you can get whatever you want down at the cafe. And yeah, it's interesting because I'm also sober. I decided to go sober like 2019.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I would like to apologize to everybody. I mean, 2017 and 2018 because that was
Should we
slappy.
wait until the ocean
Yeah.
breeze passes?
Just jiggle
Mona,
it.
Mona,
Jiggle the mouse.
Yeah, Mona. Oh, I think it's this.
Jiggle it.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
My face right now.
We can turn this one off and I'll just use Bruce's.
You got a loud voice, Jamie.
Okay.
Carrie, great.
We'll just turn it off.
Beep, beep.
Mona, okay.
Still a little bit. Anyways, so it's interesting getting writers. For example, today my band, I had to buy $250 in booze alone. And just thinking about the end of the show, it's like, great, we're gonna have 8 very drunk people.
Wait, what do you
wandering
mean?
around.
I don't
Like,
know what you mean, you had to buy $250.
for the writer, for the hospitality writer.
Oh, you as the venue had to buy
Yeah.
it for the artist.
And, but conversely, Sunday night, our artist was like, absolutely no beer, wine, liquor, or drugs allowed in the green room or adjacent to. And I mean, even her opener was like, can we get a small cooler? Or we just want to keep it where she won't see it. And I'm like, no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And like I'm beholden to the contract for that. And I thought that was kind of cool because I mean, people who have dealt with alcoholism and stuff like that in their lives, you kind of see, like, of course it's branded as a social thing, social lubricant, we can, have fun with it, but like one drink too many then turns into any number of situations that can lead to violence, that can lead to like drunk driving, any of that. And so within mental health, exploring my own sobriety, it's like that's a way to push things down, and that's not helping anything. It's you're dampening the things that you need to work on. So if we're talking about mental health and alcohol in the same sentence, it's like one impedes the other 100%. Like there's no way around it.
Yeah.
And within the music industry, it is easy to be like, yeah, we'll give you drink tickets like in lieu of pay. Like, how much are you spending on that beer that could actually go into artist pockets, or like for a meal, or for other resources like having a therapist on hand, or some, there's like plenty of other ways we can deal with that. And also as a venue, we're trying to explore different options for our patrons to have, mocktails and stuff like that. Like I will drink coffee and water all day, but like I want something fruity, I want something like sparkly.
Sure.
Without
You want to join the party without like joining the party?
So it's having those options available to everybody that's walking into the door. And thankfully there's a lot of stuff that's happening here in Denver that, we have like the non-alcoholic bar, Jen Cordy's doing clear heads. It's like there are sober spaces being made, but I think it just needs to be talked about more and be,
Less stigmatized.
yes.
Yeah.
And, especially in a lot of our different respective genres, like I grew up with a punk rock background, and like getting fucked up was a part of that all the time, on anything and everything. And, you see that in hip hop, you see that in country music especially, like it's baked into all of our respective genres, and we need to like maybe remake that recipe to where it's not necessarily fully a part of all of it, because it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, I like that idea of remaking the recipe, right? And without judgment either, right? We're not, what I love about a sort of younger generation of folks, when they and you talk about sobriety, it's more of a curiosity. It's not an abstinence only. Like there was also sort of this like cultural time and era where it's either you just like totally abstain, or you
or you go all the way in. And like, I love this idea, like everything, that it's fluid, that sobriety is fluid now, and that everybody has a choice and access. Feel free if you want to talk about this as it relates to mental wellness for our artists and just sort of the sober movement.
I think alcohol and drugs can I think some artists take it as a thing to replace mental health services, as in let me numb this up and just let me just forget about it. But that definitely compounds itself because concerts are that atmosphere, festivals are that atmosphere where there is a lot of booze, there's drugs, and people are actively just partaking, because that's kind of the culture of music and how we get involved with it. But as artists, you're always around it, so it's easy to lose control. And I've seen people lose control, and it's tough working alongside that, because you're just what do I do here without it gets it's when it does get out of control, it's nothing you've ever seen. It's a whirlwind that just takes over everything, and it takes over more than the music, and then it takes over relationships, takes over the music itself. It just becomes this whole thing that started as, oh, let me just get fucked up tonight, and then you lost control and you just kept losing control and snowball. And I think for people that aren't sober or haven't reached the curiosity, I'm not sober, but I think there needs to be understanding of where you are, and understanding of where these things have a place in life.
Yeah.
And in what capacity. If you aren't sober. If you are sober and you've cut it out, then there's even more power to you. It's just understanding where you are and understanding how these things affect you, and understanding how it affects what you want to do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I think part of the reason that I'm excited about the bringing sober bars and the sort of sober scene into UMS is as somebody who's been sober for almost 7 years, I don't want to feel isolated from people who aren't sober. I want to hang out. I want to hang out till 4 in the morning, right? I just want something to do with you, right? And so I think there's the co-mingling and coexisting is important. And I love that. I love that about Clear Heads, right? It's not everybody who's there is sober, and not everybody who organizes it is sober, but just a recognition that that we want to be in the same spaces together. Any final thoughts about that?
Yeah, I just think it's so easy to get caught up, especially in music and entertainment. I used to go to all of these, the premiere showcases of artists, and everything was open bar, open bar, and it's just so easy to have a drinking problem. It really is. It's so easy because
That's very true.
yeah, man. I mean, I remember going to all these things, and especially working in the music industry, I went to every artist thing. And it's always open bar. And my drink used to be Sex on the Beach, Long Island iced tea, I would mix. And then one day I was like, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't drink. I might have a drink once every 6 months, and I made a choice. I didn't have a problem or anything, but I just thought that it's so easy this could be a problem really, really easy, because all these events are, open bar, and it's hard liquor, not just the brown stuff. It's vodka and whiskey and beer and wine, and people are just doing that. So I think we have to be really careful when we go to these events and kind of just really think through what we're doing here. So I made that choice 20-something years ago, I don't want to drink anymore. Plus I had alcoholism in my family, my grandmother was an alcoholic. So I knew it was in my DNA, so I was I don't want to go down that path, because I see how alcoholism destroys families.
Yeah.
It does. It messes up families, and I just did not want to do that for myself. So I'll be here.
Yeah. I love that there's more space for all of us to talk about it.
Absolutely.
We have a question. I would love to hear your question. Will you tell us who you are?
I mean, this might be kind of abstract from the point,
Yeah.
but I think the reliance on alcohol is kind of you never get to see. It's hard because it makes it inaccessible. There's I'm not 21 yet, it's the amount of shows that I just couldn't see, like the amount of incredible artists that I just couldn't see.
right.
They were playing only 21 venues.
That's right.
And I know that venues do that because they're like, it's a liability, and also the alcohol money is so substantial.
Yep.
But then it's like, well, what if you actually just let everyone who wanted to buy a ticket buy a ticket, and you would be actually earning the same amount as if you like had the bar?
Yeah,
I don't know.
love that. No, I love that you're bringing that up. That is
Yeah.
absolutely critical as we're talking about equity, right? And youth culture and young people. And you'll see at UMS Sober Bar stages, we have that listed, like reasons I found myself in the sober bar. I'm 19, you know? Damn it. Like, you know, and so I love that you say that, right? Because just being able to access art you love because you're not of an age that a bar will let you in. You're not there for the bar, right? I love that. And yeah, Jen, please. Jen's a leader, obviously, in our community.
Well, no, there's like my own personal, like, baby lesbian days of feeling like you have to suffer to make art.
Yeah.
So, like, changing the thought process with young artists around, like, if you're heartbroken, you don't have to go drink a bottle of whiskey and write a song about it because that's every sad song you've ever heard is like, oh, drink my whiskey and write this sad song. Or, like, it is ingrained in the culture of going to things, but it's also ingrained in the culture of being an artist, of like how much you have to suffer to tap into those places that you want to emote from.
Yeah.
And I don't really have like a solution for that.
Yeah.
But I think, addressing mental health is one thing, but learning to create from a place of joy while also learning to create from a place of suffering, because there's such a balance between joy and sadness, and a fine line.
Yep.
So I don't maybe shifting the conversation around like being able to create when you're in a dark place without substances.
I love it.
Whether that's booze or weed or whatever, to just explore that. And I don't really have a solution to that so much as just acknowledging that, because I felt like when I was younger, it's like, oh, I had the whiskey voice and I can't play tonight if I don't drink 4 fucking Captain and Coke, I don't know, whatever it is. So like, that's gross, right? Yeah, because I know any better. You don't know any better, but like learning that, like, or being LGBTQ, and we'd go dancing every Tuesday because it was $2, get in, drink all you can.
That's right.
And then you end up in abusive relationships when you're young as queer people, because domestic violence doesn't count if it's 2 women, or domestic violence doesn't count if it's 2 men. So it's like those things that happen to you when you're really young that nobody really talks about how to deal with.
Yeah. And also getting rid of the stigma of not drinking. I can't tell you how many times I'll go out and they're like, "You're not drinking?" I'm like, "No, I don't want to drink." And they're, "Oh, are you in
What's wrong with
recovery?"
you?
Or
It's always like
something. And I'm like, "No, I don't drink. I don't want to drink." And getting rid of that, making it feel awkward, because I don't care if you drink, just handle your liquor, because I don't want to be around you.
Like, you'll see me go quick. If you get too sloppy.
Don't get sloppy.
That time I gotta go.
So I just get rid of that stigma of being okay to say, you know what, I don't want to. I don't drink. I'll just have some soda or a fruit punch or whatever it is, and that's okay. There's no explanation needed.
Well, and Jen, to your point, like having artists come in to Indie and having those conversations, like I think that people make a point when they want people to know that they're sober. And a lot of times whenever I've asked that question, like, well, what led you to that movie, whatever those questions are, the first thing they'll say is like, I thought my music was going to go away. I thought my spark was going to go away. I thought whatever. And it's never the case. Then there was like, I made an album that I've never been prouder of. I've made the art that I've never been prouder of. And it's like, so having that also be a part of the conversation where it's like, you don't have to get fucked up to make beautiful art. Like, you're already suffering. That's already there. That, like, if that's what you're tapping into, right?
Like you're a person,
right?
like, that's
like,
yeah.
It's not like you can
good point.
channel that into the music or channel that into whatever other thing you want to do, right? Like your art is still there. You're still that person, whether or not you're drunk or whatever. So thank you for bringing that up, because that is, I think a lot of people are worried. Like if I quit doing this thing, is my art going to go away? No, it's not. It's still there very much.
I'd say like sobriety also offers you that incredible resource as artists, which is time. And I think that we do not have enough time. We do need resources and money in order to do those things.
That's
there
right.
is no musician middle class in Colorado right now.
Correct.
And I also think that what it really is, in addition to like the suffering, is that like it's a replacement for vulnerability. And so if you learn how to be vulnerable in a sober state, is fucking scary, but it's necessary. You know, because it's like, oh, like I can open up the social lubricant thing. It's like, well, that's what you practice in vulnerability and taking risks and knowing that like you don't have control of the outcome. And if you have something like, you know, drugs and alcohol to do that, then like it just creates this like shame cycle, you know, of like not being able to do things on your own. So.
Well, I mean, think that like needing the substance to suffer to create art, spinning it to be like, no, this art or this performance is my meditation, is my church, is my pure intention.
Yeah.
This is the best version of me I can give you.
Yeah.
As a performer, you know. And I'm not a sober person. Like I didn't go through a sober journey, but I realized like in my own. That's why I call it clear heads.
Yep.
It's not a place of like, well, I have to be sober. It's more like, no, I just need to be really clear headed.
That's right.
About how I'm making art, consuming art, and performing my art.
Yeah.
So that I can remember it.
Yeah.
That I can remember that feeling of being on stage and playing to thousands of people
Yeah.
or whatever. So that it fuels me.
Yeah.
It fuels the joy
Yeah.
when you're struggling.
We're going to wrap up the sober piece maybe with Baba, and then we've got 2 more questions, and then we're going to open it up for any other questions we have. Yeah, it's a great kickoff. Yeah.
I think then words are important. We're saying sobriety, so sobriety kind of means clarity, right? So sober to be really clear on something. There are toxins. You can be intoxicated as well. There's a difference between sobriety and intoxication. Intoxication, we're all kind of being toxically, kind of energetically influenced by something, right? It can be like alcohol, it can be drugs, or that could be a toxicity. I believe like the sobriety is just like the clarity, you know, like to be creating art from the clarity and creating art from, you know, from the point of clarity. This is like, this is like inclination that we gotta go through even darkness to create art. We can create art through our light as well.
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't have to be like, so yin and yang, or it's like our meeting points right in the middle. I think the words are important. That, you know, we're saying sober, you know, that connects to being clear. Just being clear, and that connects us better as people. You know, we can just be clear. So like the sobriety and clarity is.
Yeah, I love it. Well, we're gonna move into the final 2 questions here, but just wanna 2 things I wanna just call out. Just a thank you for folks who were willing to go down and have that conversation. I haven't had a conversation about sobriety in a room with artists ever, and so that was beautiful. Also want to hold space for the folks who this like hit something, and you're worried about your own substance use. I know how that feels. And if you're not through it and you're worried about it and this is coming up somewhere in your body and it's scaring you, or you're feeling a little shame or worried, or oh God, they're talking about sobriety and I'm not sober but I should be, and I'm worried about my drinking, it's okay. Like, it's totally okay. I've been there and I am here for the next 5 days and in the duration. You just come grab me, right? I'm not a sober evangelist. I'm just here to just be with you. So, okay, so final 2 questions I have around equity and music and entertainment is, what is happening that you are, like, what are the organizations, the groups that we should be aware of who are moving the needle? That we should be paying attention to, be a part of, and it could be organizations, musicians, labels, companies. Who's moving the needle that you're like, you know what, they're onto something, let's support them. And then we're going to wrap with a final question is, if music and entertainment becomes more equitable, what impact does that have on society as a whole? So you can pick one of those questions, you can pick both of those questions.
Well, for the first question, I think we've got record, obviously. They are definitely in the forefront of change. I've never worked for an organization like this. I think what you and everyone else has done with this organization is absolutely fantastic. I'm so proud to be a part of this. I think it's great. Another company that I think is doing really great stuff is Color Creative, one of Issa Rae's companies.
Yes.
I think Issa Rae is definitely someone who gets it. She's at the forefront of change. She's all about women. She's all about Black women. She's about people of color and giving opportunities. I think she is someone definitely to watch. I also think, and I'm forgetting her name, the one that's with Abbott Elementary. I'm forgetting her name. She's dope. No, she's like setting the trend. I'd love to see these young people really, really stepping up to the plate and demanding that, when they shoot these series or these movies or whatever, that it's got to be, a Black DP, a Black director, a Black producer, or somebody of color, and there's got to be a woman involved as well. I'll also say ESPN, right? Weird. They're our presenting sponsor of our film festival, and I didn't know this about ESPN, but they are really committed to bringing young people under the fold. They're committed to having more women direct a lot of their 30 for 30s and a lot of their series on sports figures. I think it's absolutely fantastic. They're committed to partnering with schools and organizations that are doing great things for young people in the arts. I didn't know that. I think it's awesome. It's great. Another company is Facebook, Meta, whatever you want to call it. They're one of our sponsors as well. They have this whole thing called We the Culture. It's so easy to get involved in it. It's just this organization. You just sign up online and it's whatever you want to do, whether it's you're a cowboy or a cowgirl or you're a poet or you're an artist, like whatever it is, you submit this stuff and they'll give you money to create your art. I was telling my friends over there, you guys need to really blow this horn louder because this is an amazing opportunity for young people. So it's called We the Culture. Look it up. It's amazing. Anybody can apply for this money, and there's no accountability. There's no, well, in 4 months, show me your progress. No, they're just giving you money to create art. So those are the companies that I think are doing great things. I'm trying to remember names.
Sorry, Bruce, and maybe you can wrap with this. We nailed this in music and entertainment. What does that mean for society? Corey?
Yeah, I think, not to plug,
You can plug whatever you want. That's why you're up here.
I'm really
You got the mic.
I'm really proud of the work we do at Future Garden. Like, I always and even I really wanted there to be more people of color on stages, like the big stages, that you couldn't access. Like there was Taste of Colorado, you had UMS when it was primarily white at one point, and really elevating POCs, queer talent. It's something that's near and dear to my heart. It's something that when I started writing on the different music scene, it wasn't huge. There was no one championing those artists. There was no one there to give them support. There was no one booking them. It was all so stagnant. Even writing articles on them. One thing I made a mission of when I was editor at 303 was just I really wanted to show how diverse different music scenes is, and not just appearance but sound, and being able to show and let them tell their story on their own terms. And that's something that as a person of color in the industry, you rarely get the opportunity to do.
Yeah.
A lot of people want to focus you in trauma as a person of color and tell a story through your trauma, as in this is the only reason you've been able to make art. And they don't do that as much with white facing artists. So one thing that I was very adamant on when I was there was just I want them to be able to be seen as they want to be seen. And that also and when going into Future Garden, it's I want them to be seen as they want to be seen, but on stages.
Yes.
And how their music gets heard, and how they are able to reach people. My duties are in management and creative. So it's how best can I show you in a way that's effective? And I am very proud of that. And as it grows, I want that to continue to be the focus and bring more people into that fold that have historically been ignored, especially in a place like Denver where it's predominantly white, predominantly male, that I want more of that.
Yep.
And find ways to pull that out and to put it on the pedestal.
Yep.
I have one more thing to say that this came to mind. I need all of you creatives to really get into Oculus, the metaverse. No, I'm serious. It's huge. I didn't know. I'm not into it, right? So Facebook, there's this whole virtual reality that you can get discovered in the metaverse. So Juicebox, that amazing poem, whatever that you did when we had the all-staff meeting, imagine you, and it's all free. Oculus is totally free. You go in there, you create your own channel, and you're doing your art. You don't know who's seeing this stuff. We, as people of color, and women have to be early adaptive to this. I'm telling you, it is the next wave. I didn't know it was so huge. So you all research metaverse. Oculus is huge. You already know. There's so many worlds. I didn't know. Like there's so many worlds in there. It's wild, but it's here and it's new.
I like that idea of like at least know
Performing
you have to
in
at least know about it
Know
to make
about
a
it.
choice.
Oh my God,
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely.
And it's 100% free, and we got to be early adapters to
Yeah.
this. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Sufac's on that.
Everybody's
All
on
of
it.
our
Everybody's
artists,
on it.
yeah.
But there's a lot of independent artists on Oculus, like on the metaverse.
Well, yeah,
It's
and
amazing.
in general, even like beyond the metaverse, like Fortnite, you're seeing these like huge money drawing concerts
That's
come
right.
through.
Yep.
And I think like there is opportunity, like understanding your opportunity as an artist and like
Yeah.
how best to
Exactly.
exploit it
That's
for
right.
yourself is
Yeah.
super key.
100%.
All right, well, we're gonna give sort of final thoughts to Bruce here. If we nail this, if we see more equity and inclusion and true equity with integrity in the music and entertainment industry, what impact does that have on society?
Well, I feel like I'm preaching to the choir when I say representation matters. But I think at its very root, it proves how much value you have. So even if you're not an artist or a musician or whatever, if some kid or an adult sees a Black queer artist on stage and they identify as a Black queer person, they're like, cool, that person's making something, and that means that I see me on that.
Yep.
So what I'm doing matters. My life does have value, and so it whether or not it's art or accounting or sports or whatever, it's like you can go and do your thing. And so I think that makes a space for people to be able to thrive and be inspired and feel joy when otherwise they don't see themselves. I can say that having worked in radio, there was a point where I didn't see myself in the playlist. I didn't see women that much. I didn't see Latinos that much. I didn't see queer people that much. And it was like, am I even fucking welcome here? Like, why am I hosting all of this shit? Why am I making this playlist and sharing this playlist that has nothing to do with me? And it was really hard. And it's still continuing, obviously, but, being able to say, like, I'm going to have a weekly show of Latin artists because they need a space, like that was my way of being able to do that, and it's important that we have those spaces in different parts of the music industry and entertainment industry at large, because that's the primary focus where people go to find joy, to feel catharsis, to feel whatever. So having voices that match their own in some specific way, like we all embody several different communities, but like, if you can say, I do identify with that, my feelings are valid, my life is valid, that means that people are going to move forward and be able to do what they were put here to do, whether it's art or not.
Can I like bounce off that real quick?
Sure.
Like representation matters so much because like you'll have someone like as huge as like Bad Bunny is right now, and like with a 10-week long like #1 album, and like radio still isn't embracing those songs which are breaking records, and it's just like, but why? But why? Like,
Yeah.
you can have someone that has like nothing and it's like they're supported by radio, but like you don't want to do Spanish music because you don't think it has a place. Like,
Or it's not your audience.
yeah,
Like
it's
yeah.
weird.
This
It's
is a
weird thing.
conversation I'm having right now.
Yeah.
And we are playing Bad Bunny because I was like, nobody else in Denver is. Like,
Right.
hello. Like,
On the regular.
But like,
yeah.
that's like a huge artist, and like it's still like that's why representation matters, because like you're being able to kick down a door which has like held people back from like reaching true potential. Like radio is so huge, like not having that like is actually stifling his own success, and it's only because he stuck to his roots as like speaking in Spanish and being that like being hard lined on that and not straying away from that and being like, they'll understand me. This is what I do.
Yeah.
And like kind of being punished for it in a weird way.
This is such an awesome segue. We have a great panel tomorrow at noon on radio, and I think this is a great, like, an awesome topic to bring up there too. Okay, so in the spirit of time, we are gonna go ahead and wrap this panel, but can we give it up for these brilliant folks?